Okay, this is our beginner decompression routine. For this, it's going to take about 10 minutes or so. The main focus here is going to be to decompress this back chain and start to give us access into these areas in the glutes, the hamstrings, our lower back. Start to decompress all those compressive forces that have been building on our body over years of sitting and lifestyle habits and our training, okay? So, one key thing we want to make sure that we focus on this is that we want to try stay in our back chain as much as possible. What that means is my hips are going to be down and back, okay? So my tail is down and back and my crown is up and forward, okay? We want to try avoid in any of these movements we're going into that we thrust the hips forward and then our shoulders start to actually come back behind the hips. That's what's leading to the compression. We want to open it up, okay? So follow along. First, we're going to start with some tummy time. So this is just to decompress the whole spine and start to lengthen out that body. So we're going to lie on our belly. We're going to take our feet and we're going to point our toes in and our heels out, okay? So we've got this slight rotation outwards with the heels. So lying on the belly, we're going to go for a 2-minute hold in this position. What we want to imagine doing here is lengthening our spine as much as possible. So imagine a piece of string at the top of my head and it's pulling me in the direction in front, okay? So I'm really trying to lengthen out. From here, we're going to take our hands, place them out in front, and we can have our feet off the floor if we want. If that's a little bit too much for you, we can have the toes on the floor, but still having the toes in and heels out, okay? So we're going to go for a 2-minute hold here, starting now. So imagine trying to lengthen through this spine. As we breathe, we're thinking of breathing into this spine, okay? Try to breathe length in. If this is too much for you here, you can take the hands and place them beside the armpits. And again, we're not cranking the neck up, we're just looking to keep that chest up and that spine nice and long. All the time, actively trying to pull and lengthen that spine. Breathing deep and relaxed. Think expansion here, okay? Trying to breathe length into the spine. So we're on the fingertips here. We're not trying to take all the weight through our hands. And again, if you want to step it up, we're going to place the fingertips out in front. Really trying to breathe deep into that belly. Feel the expansion come. You're going to feel some work start to happen in the lower back, the mid back. But that's absolutely fine. If you want, again, lift the legs. Should feel nice activation in that whole back chain. Each breath you take, just imagine and trying to lengthen through the spine, okay? We're not just extending like this, we're trying to get long through the spine. And use that breath to help you do that. Another 40 seconds. Try and make yourself as tall as possible. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Again, trying to breathe length. Crown of the head, bottoms of the feet move away from each other. It's really important that we use that breath to lengthen everything out. That's where we're going to get the benefit of this. 15 more seconds. Try and relax. If you feel fatigue coming in the back, that's absolutely fine. It's just a sign it's an area we need to work on. Okay, one last breath in this position. And slowly release that tension. Slowly come out of that position. Slowly bringing yourselves up onto all fours. Next, we're going to go into our toe rockers. So for this, we want to tuck our toes underneath. We're going to be on all fours here. I want to get more of the pressure from my second to my fifth toe here, okay? So we're going to have our heels stacked above our second toes, and we want to keep that pressure out. So the heels will drop out ever so slightly. And from here, what we want to imagine doing is pressurizing the floor with my knees. So think of driving my knees and my toes down into the floor. And then I want you to imagine trying to rip the floor apart with your knees here, okay? So you start to squeeze the knees out ever so slightly, and already you should feel some pressure come in the outside of the hip on each side, okay? So you're going to sit back into it. You're going to find that pressure, that tension in the back of the hip here. You feel it loading. Eyes are going to be fixed in front, trying to stay long through the spine again, just like in our tummy time. Nice and long through the spine. Find that tension in the hip, try to rip that ground apart, and we're going to go here for some pulses, okay? And again, we want to keep that constant tension. So this is just small pulses, and we're going to go for 45 seconds. So timer is on, 45 seconds. All the time, think of actively driving the knees into the floor and trying to rip the floor apart with the knees. Sternum is up and forward, gaze is fixed in front on the horizon, and we're pulsing here. Find the pressure in your hip, okay, in this back to outer part of the hip, maybe even a little bit in the hamstrings, and keep that pressure, okay? We're not thrusting out like this. We want to keep that tailbone long and up and back, and we're keeping that pressure active in the knees all the time, okay? And you feel like here we're kind of prizing this hip open. So little pulses, just dropping back into that pressure. And again, trying to breathe long through the spine. Think length here all the time, decompression, okay? 5, 4, 3, keep pulling the ground apart, 2, 1. Okay, then we're going to slowly stay in this position. Next, we're going to child rocker. So keep that pressure. Now we're going to point the feet away and come down on the tops of the feet. From here, what we want to do is have our toes pointing in and ankles pointing out. So I'm going to show you from the back here. Toes will be touching at the back. Ankles are dropping out to the side. Toes are in. Okay, so ankles pointing away. This inner ankle bone is high. And from here, we're going to do the same thing. About 2 fist width between your knees. Toes are touching, ankles away. This time pressurize with the outside of the shin bone here and the outside of the ankle. Think of trying to get this outside edge of your ankle and top of your foot down into the floor. So this top front corner of the foot, we're really driving that down into the floor on both sides. And again, trying to squeeze the floor apart with our knees. Find that pressure in the back of your hips. Think length through the spine, and we're going to pulse here. Okay, so keep that pressure. We should feel nice tension and pressure coming in the back of the hips. Feel them loading up, decompressing, okay? Long through the spine. Never losing that pressure in the back of the hip. Little pulses. And again, check in with yourself. Are you driving that top outside corner of your foot into the floor? Your knees, are you trying to spread the floor with your knees? Okay, try to rip the floor apart between your two knees. Breathing, long sternum up, lengthen the spine. Keep that constant pressure. Another couple of seconds. Just small pulses here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, slowly stay in that position. Next, we're going to take the hands off the floor. So I'm going to show from this side now. We're going to go for 45-second holds here again. Try to keep that pressure in the back of the hips. Okay, so now from here, what we're going to do, driving our feet into the floor, our knees into the floor, ripping the ground apart with our knees. We're going to sit back with our hips. So think tailbone up and back, crown of the head up and away. We're going to take our hands off the ground and cross them across our chest. And we're going to hold here for 60 seconds in this position, okay? And we're going to start little pulses again here. So keeping that pressure in the back of the hips all the time. Rip the floor apart with your knees and drive the tops of the feet down into the floor, okay? Crown is up and forward, hips are back. Think of tailbone up and back. Keep that constant pressure here. And we're pulsing in nice and small in this position, okay? Hands across the chest. You're probably going to feel some fatigue come here. That's fine. Keep working with it. We want to go to failure. Okay, another 20 seconds or so. Keep pushing. Feel that tension, feel that pressure build here in the backs of the hips. Should feel a lot of work going on here in the outer hip, maybe even into the hamstrings, lower back. If that's starting to fatigue, that's fine as well. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's stay in this position. Stay in that exact same position. Now what we're going to do from this position, I want to shift my weight to my left side. So we're going to pressurize this left side even more. So what I'm going to do is take my left hand, place my thumb in my armpit, and my right hand comes to my sternum. So see now how my head has started to stack and shift over this left side, okay? And from here, we're going to hold for 50 seconds or 60 seconds or so on this left side. So really driving the outside ankle and my knee down into the floor here. holding and breathing, okay? Think, again, long, crown up and forward, tailbone up and back. Right thumb is on the sternum, left thumb is on the left armpit, and I'm holding here. Lower back. Left hip now this time is going to be screaming at you. You're going to feel a lot of pressure and work there. If you're really struggling, you can take the hands directly down and use them for some support here. But we want to keep that load and pressure in the back side of this left hip here as much as we can. Really fighting in to that pressure, into that expansion in the back, loading up that back chain. If this feels tough, it's because we've lost our ability to expand into this area and really open up this back chain, okay? So another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From here, keep that pressure. And now we're gonna hover to the opposite side. So my hands come from here, and now I switch, okay? Pressurizing this right hip now, driving down through the floor, really sticking that butt back on this right side, okay? Pushing it back. And we want the same position, okay? Ankle, our heel points away, toes are pointing in. We're going to go for 60 seconds on this side. Right hand comes to right armpit. Left hand comes to sternum, and my head is aligned over my knee here, okay? Really loading back. So think again, tailbone up and back, head aligned, crown long and forward, okay? Breathing deep into the belly here. Really pressurizing that right hip this time. Driving your knee, driving your top corner of your foot down into the floor, and really sending those hips back, okay? Sit back into this side, and you're going to feel a nice load come here in the back of this hip, okay? 60 seconds. Breathe deep, breathe long, think expansion with your breath. Another 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly come out, slowly come back to center, and then we're going to slowly relax, okay? So that's going to fire up the lower back, backs of the hips and the hamstrings. Last one we're going to go into is our bow hip stretch. Okay, so for this, what we want to do is come onto all fours again. Let me show you from the front. Come onto all fours. Again, we're going to work we'll go back to our left side, so we're going to work this left side. What we want to do is take my left hand, place it just outside of my left knee. My right hand comes up and forward across center. So again, I'm getting my head aligned over this side, okay? From here, I want to step my right foot back, and then I'm going to turn my left foot in under me ever so slightly, okay? And again, we want that heel pointing up and away, and we're on that outside ankle bone. So this inner ankle bone is pointing to the ceiling. From here now, aligned in this column, I'm going to start to sit back into this stretch, reaching my right leg back. And again, think chest up, crown up, tailbone up and back here, loading and pressurizing this side as much as possible. So our hands are framing this side and my head is over on this side. Think of driving your knee into the floor so the clock is on. We're going for 60 seconds on each side. And we're trying to keep that pressure, okay? Sit back into the hip. I'm going to show from here. Sit back into the hip. And I'm aligning my head here over this side, okay? Driving my knee, driving the outside of my foot down into the floor here. Find that pressure here again, okay? Nice and active. All the time we're keeping active, okay? Using that floor, pressurizing that floor, and should have a lot of pressure and tension in the back of this hip. Remember, we're framing our left side here with our hands. So my head is aligned over that left knee. Again, tailbone up and back, sitting back into it. Crown being pulled up and forward. Breathe length. Think of trying to elongate that spine. Trying to pull your hip and your head as far away from each other as you can. Okay, another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to switch. So stay in your position. I'm just coming back to face the camera. Okay, now we're going to start to frame this right side. I'm going to pivot so that my ankle comes across my midline. I'm reaching back with this left leg until I start to get that loading into the outside of this hip. My head is aligned here and my hands are now framing this right leg, okay? So sitting back into it, clock is on for 60 seconds. This is our last position. Pressurizing the floor, okay? Don't forget, actively drive the outside of your shin, outside of your foot here down into the floor, and breathe. Sternum up, gaze looking ahead, head is aligned over the knee, length, think length. Tailbone up and back, crown up and forward. Pressurizing that floor. This is starting to give us back access. You might already feel the fatigue in this back chain, but that's good. We're onto the right lines and we're starting to decompress our whole body, starting to restore our natural ancestral movement patterns that we should all have access to, that modern life has taken from us, and this is the first step along that journey. Okay, another 5 seconds. 4, 3, press to the floor, 2, 1. Slowly come back out and slowly relax, okay? So that's our decompression flow. Follow along, it's about 10 minutes or so. You'll have the details of the holds and stuff, but if you follow along, we're doing 2-minute holds on our tummy time. We've got our 45 seconds on our rockers and then our 60-second isometric holds, all firing up this back chain, okay? Remember, we want to stay in this back chain as much as we can, so try avoid throughout this entire process and over the next couple of days and weeks, try avoid coming out of the position like this, okay? Because that's reinforcing that compressive pattern. We want to stay back in this position where we're starting to load and access this back chain. But follow along, be consistent. This is the first steps to restoring and reclaiming and completely recoding how your body moves back to more natural and ancestral ways.